Welcome to the latest episode of Personal, the podcast where we get to meet the real personality behind the professional. I'm delighted to be interviewing Imran Anwar, CEO of Alt Labs and Flok, in this episode. So, Imran, what does the future hold for humans now that we're involved in AI?
Great question. I think, so there's been a lot of debate, and we have this debate as a team, about AI. I think we're still in the era of machine learning and not fully AI. I think AI has become a word that everyone's getting comfortable using without knowing the true theories behind AI, right? So let's just use the one that everybody is aware of, ChatGPT.
Yes.
It's basically a massive database with machine learning plugged into it. There's nothing artificial or intelligent about it. It is just, it's a data, it's basically a program that's been run that knows how to answer a question based off the amount of data set that we put in. So if we look at the leap from ChatGPT 3 to 4, it's about the volume of data that's been plugged in.
Right.
It's still historical data, right? So if you were to ask ChatGPT, what does the future of tomorrow hold? It can't answer that. So it's not artificial intelligence. It's machine learning. It can only read and give you an answer based on what's in its data set.
Right. Okay,
So,
and that's the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning.
I think there's a lot of still unknowns about it, but I think from a human standpoint, I think it's there was I think I forgot who said it, but they said it's not AI is not going to replace humans. It's going to be humans who know how to use AI.
Yes, yeah.
And I think I'm a firm believer of that. I think new tools always come out. Mobile phones have came out, emails came out, but we still have call centers, right? So if you think about how that world's changed, we still have call centers. People are still ringing up to do stuff. Is AI or machine learning going to replace that? Absolutely not. It'll make it easier for people to get an answer, but to get full validation and to get full support and help, they're still going to have to lean onto a human to do that.
Okay, so that's kind of maybe where we're at now. I listened to a podcast, and you might have listened to it too. It was on Diary of a CEO with Mo, is it Mo Gawdat?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he mentioned by 2037, we'll all be living on a remote island, either because AI is doing our jobs for us or because we're terrified of machines and we're hiding from them.
No, I think it's crazy.
Do you?
Yeah, I just think it's crazy. I think if we look at, we've got, let's step one further back. We've got a target in the UK of electric cars or emission-free cars by 2030. We're way off that mark. We don't have the infrastructure to deal with it. We're not going to have the infrastructure to deal with AI. There's not enough resource, not enough people trained, not enough education around it yet. I think 2037, I think it's way too soon to be making that remark. I think it'll be more like 2060 to 70.
Okay.
Before, and there's not going to be two different parallels that we live to this, right? It's robotics have existed for a while now. We're about 2 decades into full robotics. The car manufacturing industry heavily uses them, but still have a lot of humans doing the work. And what you'll probably find is over time, the work that humans do is probably going to be more valuable, and people will probably pay a lot more for it. Give you a prime example is someone like Rolls-Royce charge a premium for the cars because it's made by humans. Very little is done by robotics.
Yes.
It's very much the old carpenter, the handcraft that goes into making a product, which dictates value. Over time, I think product will probably end up coming cheaper if people realize it's being built by robotics or AI.
Yes.
So economies of scale will probably change as well.
Okay, so you think there's still a place for humans? We're still safe.
100%.
That's lovely to hear, because I've just been hearing doom and gloom about it.
I think it's because it's easy to scare people, and I think there's a lot of scaremongering going on, especially when it comes to AI. It's humans who build AIs. AI can only learn what it's been taught and what's been fed in its database. It lacks emotion. It lacks that human intelligence or expression. You don't get that from a database for what it is. And it was more interesting if you look at the Apple Development Conference that they've just done. Not once did they mention the word AI. They referred it to machine learning, to ML.
Interesting.
They didn't mention not once AI.
Because it has that negative reputation.
Not just that, because they're calling it out for what it is.
Right, okay, I'm with you.
And they're calling it out for what it is, and it's machine learning, not AI. I think AI looks good because a lot of investors are currently spending a lot of money in the field. So if you're a business with the word AI in it, it looks quite interesting. Same as the world of innovation, right? How many companies do we know that tout themselves as being innovative or doing innovation when it's just business as usual?
Yes, with a bit of creativity.
Yeah, and they use innovation because it makes them look like the wow factor without really understanding what is innovative about their business.
Yeah, so a brand image point of view,
Correct.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Again, you mentioned they don't have emotions. So Mo was talking about them becoming sentient, and he used that example of how early days Google, he was teaching this claw to pick up a ball, and it just kept failing again and again. All of a sudden, it managed to do it, and then somehow all the other ones learnt as well. And he felt that there was something sentient about it. It was becoming living, emotional, not breathing. But
iRobot.
yes, yeah, that one.
I think we will probably, in time, end up at that rate. But to do that, I think we're still a long way off.
Okay.
Economy is scale still, like some robotics. I think of interest, me and Paul, Altab's the CTO, we were looking at this little video of, I forgot what the American robotics company is called, but they've got like a dog that will fetch a ball, that will run, that can climb and jump. It's a robotic dog.
Yeah.
And then when we're like, oh, that would be quite cool. Let's just see how much this is going to cost. £250,000.
Right.
So we're not in the market
not too
anytime
accessible.
soon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Apparently we were supposed to have flying cars by now, weren't we?
Well, that's true. That is true. But yeah.
So I think humans get quite excited about stuff. And I think we're just going through this little phase of it's the next buzzword that's playing off quite well. And I think the world of social media gets everyone hyped quite quickly than they need to be.
That is true. That is true.
And I think we're just going through that little...
Yeah, they talk about almost the robots spreading misinformation or AI spreading misinformation, but actually humans are pretty good at that too, aren't they?
It'll only spread what it knows. So we talk about data biasing and AI biasing, and that's because it's reading the data that's in existence fed into its database. Hence why, I mean, it lacks that intelligence of actually being able to change course in the future.
Yes.
It'll only keep evolving about jargon in, jargon out.
So it'll always be a time lag behind the new information that's being fed in.
There will come a time with quantum computing.
Okay.
For it to speed up. So one of my biggest take was, and I think I did a little video on LinkedIn about it, my theory of Microsoft acquiring ChatGPT was Microsoft is one of the handful of companies alongside IBM heavily spending a lot of money, and I mean billions, on quantum computing.
Okay.
ChatGPT has a data set that Microsoft didn't have. So
Right.
they've helped acquire that, which can feed into the quantum computing. If you're now being quantum computing into it, you could then, in theory, have better enhanced data moving forward in much more real time straight away.
Okay.
That would be more interesting. But yeah, again, quantum computing, there's not that many people who understand it, not many people learning about it, not many people developing an engineering format. So I think we're still a significant time lap yet between that.
Can you explain quantum computing and the implications of it?
Well, I'm not a subject matter expert, but I can give what my understanding is, I suppose. So quantum computing is being able to process data with microchips, like super small microchips at human capacity level. So if it takes, for instance, ChatGPT 2 seconds to think of something, quantum computing will turn that to less than 100th of a millisecond. It will punch out stuff. It's able to do, because it can handle a lot more data and a lot more complicated information.
Right.
It's able to make sense of maximum input very, very quickly. If you look at astronomy, NASA, quantum computing comes really handy for stuff like that, to understand what's going out in greater volume of scale. Mathematicians, people trying to figure out engineering world, quantum computing comes really interesting at that point. So I think over time, what we'll end up finding is supercomputers, what they'll become as, that are able to process information at lightning speed, potentially quicker than what a human brain can function at.
Yeah.
That's where we get to quantum.
Wow, amazing. Thank you for that. I'm learning everything today. How will it affect education?
I think we're already seeing the change of education. So we did a piece of work a while back for University College London to look at what does the future of studies there look like. And this was during the first lockdown. And what they realised straight away was actually universities are going to have to change their models.
Right.
So from one part as a university point of view, are people going to need to be present at university to gain a degree? Potentially not, because we've already seen this is nothing new. Open University's been doing it now for a considerable amount of time and yielding the same results, right? What they don't probably have is that I've been at Oxford, I've been at Cambridge or MIT, etc. It doesn't really carry the brand presence of that. Is that going to be relative moving forward? Potentially not, no. And I think what will change is I think students, younger generation will have access to information a lot sooner, a lot quicker. Is it always going to be accurate? That's probably going to be a question. Yeah, again, going back to the other point is that it all depends on the data that goes in. So if the data is dirty going in, the answer output's going to be dirty.
Yeah.
Until that, what I mean by dirty is could be incorrect, anomaly in the data. And I genuinely think students, I think examination will have to change. So you could do remote exams, but I think you're going to have to do face-to-face assessments. So they have to present something without their content being available to them to really understand, have they understood? I think that's where we'll have to get to, right? It's about have you understood the content, not what you've been able to write.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, that's always been a trouble. It's how you apply that knowledge rather than just how can you remember it. And I just wonder with the technology and things changing so fast, how valid is our education system going to be? Can it keep up?
I think education system plays a vital part on social development. So regardless of the educational element, there's a human element of making friends, the social connections, being able to have a conversation, being able to have the away from technology elements, being able to interact. That humans are built by language. We're very tribal. We need others to survive. That's just the way the human nature is, right? And I think education may change, and actually it needs to put more emphasis on kind of the social human being element rather than more than the text and content. It's just about how do you be a better human, and how do you as a person grow up and actually help society, not in terms of revenue and profit, but actually looking after the planet, being sustainable, knowing the impact that you make as an individual and the ripple effect that has into society.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. You touched on something there, how they make you a better human.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how can we be better humans?
I think we need to get rid of boundaries and tribalism. I think if we look at today's conflicts go back, some biblical era. They've always been based on geography, right? Or religion.
Have you read that book, Prisoner of Geography?
No.
It's an amazing book. It's all about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why war starts and chaos starts, where there's one land with more resource than the others. Everybody wants a better resource. And I think we need to become, if we are to truly evolve, we need to become a world of being borderless and actually not being too precious about what is around us all the time, and actually being better at sharing our resources with everybody else and our knowledge with everybody else to make the planet better rather than just our towns, our cities, our countries. And I think that comes purely down to tribalism. This goes back thousands, back to probably start of the human race, right? And I think to do that, I think we have to be better at just caring. And I think just taking a step back of life, going, what is important? You can earn as much money as you want in life, but where does that end up, right? You can't take it to your grave. But you could do a lot more with it by giving it to society who might need it, or giving it to another country that might need it, another person that might need it.
Yeah, definitely. And, you talk, I think that's an amazing point about removing boundaries, but it seems to be going the other way, with devolution. It seems like we're getting smaller. And
it does, but politics will do what politics do, right? They will do whatever it's going to land them the votes. And the frightening thing about even in the UK is the average reading age is 9 in the UK. Yeah, and I think there's a big. So we could talk about the educational stuff. I think in the UK we've still got a massive problem where people literally will use social media as their source of truth, or will read a particular newspaper or a particular outlet or watch a particular channel and assume that the information they're being fed is 100% correct.
Yeah.
We know from all the amount of trials and stuff that's happening more recently that information is just consistently misled, and that's because big corporates are involved at some place where they need to generate revenue.
Yes, absolutely.
And nothing spreads faster than bad news, right?
So true, yeah. And still on the subject of education, how important do you feel it is to have a degree in your industry?
In my industry, probably not relevant. I don't have a degree. Paul, my CTO, doesn't have a degree, and he oversees all dev, AI, machine learning, software, app, e-com. I oversee the corporate innovation strategies, incubation programs, mentoring other startups to develop their strategies. And neither of us two have got degrees. What we have got is a lot of life experience between working in corporate and startups that we can actually share very quickly. My personal take is if you're going into and you want to be a nurse or a doctor, an engineer, an architect, where somebody's life may be at risk if something goes wrong, or it requires significant thought into minuscule detail has to be right. For instance, if you're designing an aircraft where it's going to carry 500 passengers, that requires a degree because you really need to know the little minor details that will get you out of trouble every now and then. In the world of business, you can learn business is probably best learned hands-on. Because a textbook ain't, I remember studying business and economics at college. Not once have I deployed a cash cow analysis. Like, I've not done a SWOT analysis. Everything that I've probably learned in college, I've probably not had to yield properly.
Okay.
They don't teach you how to deal with HMRC. They don't tell you more importantly, how to deal with humans. And the role in the CEO and as a senior leader, you have to play in a business about people management, about how different people in your team interact differently to feedback, how they take feedback, how you need to nurture some, let go of some, how you need to evolve the team. You don't learn that. That comes from just doing and being in the process of it. And even when it comes to talking to, I was fortunate enough to work at Orange at a young age and then went to GlaxoSmithKline. So I saw the corporate world at a very young level. And you got to see how the kind of the big organizations work and the kind of conversations, how to hold yourself, what to wear, what to talk, how to talk. You would learn that by just being part of it. A textbook ain't going to give you that feel, that rhythm. It'll teach you what you're very good at. You've got photographic memory. Well done. You can produce what the textbook's written into an exam paper and answer that. But can you physically deploy it? So we, as a business, always look for attitude over aptitude. So we can have people applying for roles and saying, I've got 10 degrees in this. We'll probably not even interview them because I can probably say straight away they've got lack that life experience of actually knowing how to do it. There's one thing is knowing about it and being able to examine it, but actually how to physically do it. I'd rather have somebody who goes, don't have a degree, but I've got 5 years experience of actually doing marketing or writing code, doing this, doing that. That has a lot more value, I think, for businesses, especially moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, half my degree was management and we covered all the HR, finance, all those topics, textbook, but I had nothing to apply it to. It made no sense. And I never get a textbook out and think, right, this situation, let's see what Maslow would have done, hundreds, well, not hundreds, maybe tens of years ago. It's, nothing beats that real life experience.
And you always get the people who will do a business management degree and end up at the big firms, right? I'm not going to name them, but we know who they all are. Yes. The big tech companies and advisories.
Yeah. You're
telling me like a person straight out of university is going to be able to go and sit with the CEO of another company and tell them what a strategy should be without deploying a strategy themselves?
No, but some of them do, don't they? Which is the worrying thing, and people pay to listen.
And they're prepared to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds at this, which is the more frightening thing, right? So, I think for us, it's always, as a business, has always showcased the value of our experience over our ability to write exam papers.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. And what life experience that we've talked about so far has shaped you the most? Not necessarily business experience, but life experience?
probably to have a bit more patience in life. I'm very much, let's just get on with it. Let's go, 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 go all the time. Back when I think it was 15, 16, I snapped my knee playing rugby, my left knee.
Ouch.
It was a game of rugby. I didn't have to actually play that match as well. The coach rang my father saying, look, we're going to rest Imran today. We've got a cup game due midweek. We'd rather have him fit and healthy for that. And at that young age, I was just like, I have to play every game. I have to play every game. And the coaches reluctantly said, right, you get first half, but you're coming on off second half. 20 minutes into the pitch, 20 minutes into the match, I went to take on the full back. I didn't see the two wingers cross over, and one hit the bottom part of my leg, the other one hit the other part and snapped my knee straight through, requiring a major surgery on my calf, full knee, nerve endings.
Oh, my goodness.
Sent me on a 2-year recovery. More importantly, I lost my scholarship at Loughborough University.
Oh, that's where I went.
Sorry
to rub it.
Sorry. Look what you could have won.
That was so cruel.
And more importantly, my dream was to always be an RAF fighter pilot. So I learned to fly at a young age with the Air Cadets. Everything I ever did as a kid was always to aim to join the Royal Air Force. And I remember being at the recruitment office in Middlesbrough, and the officer there saying, doesn't matter what you do, you've automatically failed medical. We cannot put you into a fast jet or any form of jet, or in fact, any officer rank with the knee injury that you've got, because you'll be instant medical fail. So that was a lesson in patience. I came at a young age, but I think it's one that I've probably not always adhered to because I'm still impatient in times. I think that's probably a characteristic, either a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big lesson in learning, and just sometimes you've got to sit something out.
That was one of my further questions, actually. Sometimes I think your strengths also become your weaknesses. So, yes, that lack of patience in one area, brilliant, because it means you're really driven, focused, want results now. But, yes, it can cause a little bit of frustration. And how's your knee now?
100% fine. I play football twice a week. I did a 30-mile bike ride over the weekend, and it held out perfectly fine. So, but in the winter, it comes quite challenging. I can hear the clicks. Sometimes I'm walking, you can actually hear my left knee clicking a bit. But I know in the future I'll have potentially issues with it. And I remember waking up from surgery and the surgeon saying, son, I've repaired it this time. There isn't going to be a next time me able to repair that knee. So that was like an eye-opener, saying, like, they've had to strip muscle away from my calves and wrap my ligaments around, and they had to rebuild my knee and put 2 huge screws in to hold the knee in place for a bit while the knee healed itself.
Oh my goodness, it sounds brutal. Does that make you play football with a little bit more trepidation?
No,
No,
because it's when you grow up playing rugby, football's a walk in the park, so to speak. Because when you're used to being hit at some, so I was at the age of 15, I think I got asked to play for seconds for Billingham Rugby Club, and it was probably the easiest game of rugby I played in my life, because I was fit. I could run, pick up the ball, and sprint past guys who are like 30 of my age now, I suppose. Looking back at it, and I was like, this is a walk in the park. But you don't realise like the impacts that go into you in a game of rugby, like the sheer force that goes into your body, especially at a young age. When you're playing rugby, you've got a lot of force that will go into your body. You kind of recover quite quickly and you don't think about it. But now, growing up, recovery does take a bit longer. But when I play football, I'll still go in with my left knee. Like, I think the confidence is back. I was really scared for the first 5 years after the operation not to do anything. But over time, I've gradually built my strength back up. And it's a psychological factor more than anything. I can play totally fine with it. Would I play a game of rugby? Probably not.
I don't blame you.
So I'll go play rugby. Sorry, I'll go play football, but I wouldn't touch a rugby ball in a competitive manner.
Yeah, there's actually been studies as well that if you do play with that trepidation, you're more likely to get injured again. Sports played a massive part in my life. The other half of my degree was sports science. I was a swimmer and a water polo player. And actually, talking about that education again, I learned so much more from my sporting career, translating that to running a business than kind of academia. And I think one of the things, which I think also you can maybe relate to, is learning from failure. Because, a lot of people go through life, and maybe, again, the education system is shaped where they don't want anyone to fail. They want people to experience success. And that's lovely, but it's not real life. Because I used to lose all the time in swimming and water polo. So actually a tough day at work, no bother. What are your thoughts?
100%. I'm a bad winner and a bad loser.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm terrible at both.
What does a bad winner look like?
Gloating.
Oh, no, not one of those.
I think my 10-year-old son finds out quite a bit when he reckons he can beat me at computer games. If you get from the generation that grew up with the early days of computer games. No, and that, yeah, I think I don't think you learn much from success. Success does only teaches you you've done that right. In order to understand life, you've got to fail. And to understand, sometimes it's more important sometimes to figure out the roads that you shouldn't have been on to the roads that you should be on, because it helps you make a better decision moving forward, and it makes you that bit wiser as you go through, definitely through business, because you learn, actually, I've made that mistake before. This is how I need to correct course next time. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of something that goes into your lock. You don't think about it at the time. It's always doom and gloom at the time, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a little seed that gets planted in your head. So when a similar scenario has to replay itself, you've already got one of those answers banked, going, actually, I did this last time and it didn't work. I will try this one. Even if that doesn't work, don't kick yourself about it. At least you figured out another way of not to do it.
So
You've got another way of going around it. So I think it's like sometimes, I think as humans, we are really bad at celebrating failure.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of Stephen Bartlett's podcasts, he actually said he used to get his team to celebrate failure just as much as success.
Yes, I heard that one.
And I think it's more true more than ever now, because when you look at the business world, you look at the corporate world, everyone only ever wants to see success. Nobody really wants to test failure. And then when failure happens, it's like somebody's accountable, someone's job has to go. You cost me this money, this, then that happened. No, what you've figured out is that's not the right way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Which is just as important as figuring out the right way of doing it.
Exactly. And it also, it makes people escape that accountability as well. If the failure's so negative and, you could lose your job over it, people don't want to hold their hands up. Whereas, again, another important thing in business, in life, is to say, that was me, I made that mistake, but this is what I've learned from it, and this is why it's going to become a positive thing.
Best example of this is the SpaceX program.
Yes, yeah.
The rocket took up, it exploded before it even got outside of Earth's atmosphere. And yet everyone, media, reacted to it as failure, but apart from the SpaceX team who were jumping and celebrating. And it's only when you look at a picture, it looks like it's a failure. It's a multi-billion-pound rocket exploded. But when you look at their objective was just to make sure it got off the ground. Like their MVP, or the minimal viable goal, was just to, can we actually launch this thing and get it off the ground? If we can, it's a success. Anything above that is like, wow. They proved that little step that it took was actually validated.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think as in business, we don't encourage our teams to take enough risks, because people put fear of failure into them. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you start doing that, you stop innovating, you stop growing as a business. VCs will probably back, I think the stat is 1 in 26 startups. They only expect one of them to succeed. So if we learn anything from the VC world, is potentially as businesses we hedge your bet a bit wider, prepare to run different projects, different scenarios, see what happens, and actually you're a much better shape as a business to go, actually we've tried 10 things, 5 of them didn't work, but for these 5 did. Mm-hmm. We know not to repeat that 5, but there's a lot of learnings that will come out of it. And I said to my team, it's only a failure if we've not learned anything from it. Mm-hmm. So I say, if we make a mistake, fine, let's debrief on it. What did we learn? And if we do this exact same scenario, and we make do the same thing again, and the same results happen, then it's failure, because it's failure on us for not learning the first time around. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a vital part of any business, even at our personal levels, is to map that part out. Go, actually, I tried these things, it didn't work. As long as you've learned from it, that's a critical factor, is that learning element. If you learn, then it's okay. If you haven't learned, then there's challenges around that.
So to spin that around, because I was going to say, what's your biggest failures in your personal life? What are your biggest lessons learned in your personal life?
Knowing who to trust when it comes to your business.
Okay.
Because, so as the CEO and founder, I've put all my eggs in one basket. It's my investment. We're bootstrapped. We don't have any VCs. We don't have any of that going on. So every penny has to be spent wisely. Every decision process has to be thought of. I've made a mistake before launching a company and bringing in people I thought I could trust. They weren't invested into the company, so they weren't prepared to put kind of skin in the game, so to speak, so put their own capital at risk. And then when things went wrong, they just bailed ship, and you're the one that's left to deal with it all. And a couple of years ago, it was a really big learning curve of one of the businesses I started based on the trust of a person who I thought was a friend at the time, was using it potentially as a different motive.
Okay.
I outlaid everything in, and the ship started sinking quite quickly when I wasn't there. And that's because people aren't as hungry as you, because I'll say that word, skin in the game. If they don't have it, it's only you as a founder and CEO that really can drive it.
Did it destroy your friendship?
100%. It's destroyed a 10-year friendship that we had. Ended up shutting the business down. Luckily, I broke even in terms of exit. There was a lot of mistakes made in that business, and I could write probably a novel on the learnings I've taken from it. And it comes down to learning how to trust other humans, especially when it comes to giving them free rein on something that actually is got your name on it.
In your personal life, do you have problems trusting other humans?
Not personal. I tend to keep a very tight, close circle. Actually, my close circle, I would say, for my friends is the same that I had since years about 12, 13.
Oh, that's nice.
That doesn't change. And I have this discussion with my son, actually. I always say, like, there comes a point in time where you'll have to pick your friends. Pick the friends that are going to help you and not hate on you. And that's a massive thing as humans, is knowing who to trust. And I'm very fortunate. I've got a friend who's in the NHS. I've got a friend who's a pilot. I've got a friend who is also a business owner. I can have different conversations with them, but every single one of them will give me an honest answer, and not try to down on me or go, oh, look at that, look at what you've got, look at this, look at that. It's always about, right, here's what you can do to help, and we'll help each other, because as a tight friendship, it's like we all want to build each other's blocks up to succeed, right? And we're all always looking out for just making sure, just double check something. So I know for a fact, if I've got another business decision to make, I can get on the phone to my friend Jonathan and go, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And he'll go, you know what, yeah or nay, or actually try this, because I did this and it didn't work, but just try this. Oh, by the way, I've got a contact who might be able to help you on this. And it's that inner circle you build to trust on. And I think you can't just trust everybody, because you don't understand people's motives. And that's what I learned 2 years ago, was people have a very different motive to you in the world, where if you suddenly drop your guard, you can get hurt very quickly. And a lot of friendships can be destroyed, businesses, and your whole personal life could be destroyed in the same instant as well. So you've got to be very careful when it comes down to trust. Definitely,
really good advice. And how easily do you find it to separate your personal life from your business life?
Sorry to interrupt, but just a quick word about our sponsor, Be Daily. I've been subscribing to the Be Daily now since starting my business. It provides relevant and informative information directly to my inbox, not just about the North East, but also national news. If you're interested in subscribing, we'll put the link in the description box so you can get the business news directly to your inbox. Now back to the podcast.
It's hard. My wife's a co-founder.
Oh, even harder.
So Anila is, director of both Flok and Alt Labs as well, and she
Amazing.
works as well here. And it's interesting because Anila plays the harder role out of the two of us because she's raises the three kids. We've got a 10-year-old, two twins who are 3.
Wow.
She's had hands full during maternity leave dealing with the twins, and now they're at school. And she does a phenomenal job being a mother, but she's also a director and runs a business.
Massive respect.
But there were times where I used to get home before she came back off maternity. She just joined us more recently, back in the business. So I've had one failed company, House of Vans, in that transition. I've had to launch Flok while still maintaining the growth of Alt Labs. And I'd get home and start talking about work and kind of deloading a bit. And she'd be like, stop talking about work. You're home now. Spend time with the kids. That role's now reversed.
Oh.
So I now go home. I'm like, Anila, please stop talking about work. I'm home now. Like, I don't want to talk about work. And she's like, but this. We can do this. We can do that. I'm like, just tomorrow morning we'll discuss it in the office.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
So it's kind of nearly role reversed in that. Yeah. And it's quite good for me because she's now seeing kind of the challenges I've had to face over the last few years. And now she's getting kind of that crash course into it. But and I just find it funny. Sometimes she'll be on a serious topic and I'll be chuckling in the background going, I told you so. So I told you that would happen.
How do you manage a relationship, like living together and working together?
We're like chalk and cheese, isn't it? Like, the personalities were two very different. She's very much an introvert and very shy and very quiet. But she has so much patience. Where I'm total opposite. I can probably have a conversation with anyone all day long. I'm quite more sociable than what she is, and I lack patience, as we've already discovered. So she's kind of the calming factor out of the two of us, and I think that the balance therefore works.
I think so,
because we are opposites, and as they say, opposites attract, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's why it works, is because when I can be off on one, as she calls it, she's the calming one. Just take a minute, just breathe about it, just think about it. And she's able to calmly, logically think. I don't know whether it's just a woman thing that she has, but
I don't have that.
for me, it's just like everything has to be like at 100 miles an hour, going through stuff. But I'll have 20 spades spinning in my head. For some strange reason, I'm able to. I used to be a project manager, as my trait is a project manager, right? So I can probably spin 20 plates and keep an eye on all 20 plates and go, actually, I need to make this decision here. Where she's a bit more methodical.
Okay.
She's start a task, finish a task. Start a task, finish a task.
Yeah.
So, and it's just two different ways of working.
Yeah, but I do think that works well. My husband's very different to me. We don't work together, but just in terms of dynamics, he has all the skills that I seem to lack, and vice versa. So it's quite nice how you complement each other.
Yeah.
I think that statement's true. Opposites attract.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Right, okay. Changing the subject. If you had the power to change one aspect about society, what would it be?
Just about society. One thing that would change about society. I think wastage. I think our society is really waste heavy. We don't take into I don't think we appreciate our resources that we have. Food, water, the basic stuff is what you need as a human. I just generally think, if we just look at it from a United Kingdom point of view, I just don't think we appreciate everything that we have. And I think what COVID really identified is how selfish we are as a being. Like the fact that you couldn't go to supermarket and buy beans because somebody's hoarded beans and toilet paper, and you just got to think, like, there was no humanity involved in a lot of people. It was very much self-grab, self-sustain, and people just went in a self-survival mode rather than going, actually, there's people who won't have anything. What can I give what I have to them?
Yeah.
And I think that in a society, really has to change, is the amount of wastage we get through. You know, I'm sure there'll be loads of stats on the amount of food waste that we put through, a lot of water that just gets dispersed out of the environment for unknown reasons.
Yeah.
And you just think like people who just don't have food, just don't have shelter, who don't have literally anything way beyond. We talk about the poverty line. There's people sat way below the poverty line, like literally surviving by the hour, by the day, across the world. And I think as human beings, we're just really bad at looking after each other, which goes back to probably our other point earlier on in the podcast, which was that caring element, that emotional intelligence is probably the key thing we need to get better at society, is that human intelligence understands I don't need to buy 10 lots of beans when 2 would do. If I can afford 10, buy 2, donate the other 8. Because you're not going to use them, you're going to waste them. People don't live within their means. It's always like we have to be shown to do much more. And I don't know how. I think that question has to probably be asked is like, how much is social media starting to influence a lot of this, right? This fake living, this fake personas, this fake personalities of showboating everything that you've got in the world to prove what you're proving. It's like you're proving that you're a selfish person. Right, you're not proving anything that's from a humanity point of view of worth value, right? So I think as beings, I think we need to be very much better at understanding and helping each other and actually sharing. Goes back to sharing resource. You know, if rather than just binning food and wasting it, there's plenty of charities and plenty of homeless people who could do with something. Rather than just throwing clothes in the bin, go and give them a charity, or go and find somebody who's homeless to give you your stuff to, because you know what, they're going to need it a lot more than you.
Yeah. I can totally relate to everything you've said there. I just wish there was more balance in the world. You know, when there's food waste, we're pouring food in the bin. I'm guilty sometimes, you know, if my kids haven't eaten their meal, but then there's someone starving. Another kid would have loved to eat that. And
100%.
Like, do you think surely software can play a better role? And I think it is already matching people like that. There was a website a while ago where it was matching older people who had so much time on their hands and they loved baking to working mums and dads or single parents who didn't have any time. And it was just such a it's not like life critical, but it was just such a lovely partnership. The old person felt fulfilled, they were helping out, and the working person had a little bit more help.
I think technology plays a part, but I think beyond that, I think the great one is bureaucracy and red tape.
Right.
So I'll give you an example of this. So when we first launched Flok, because we weren't too sure what the volume of food we're going to go through, the cakes and coffee and kind of the food element. And one thing we always said is where we can, we minimize food waste as a priority in the business, because it's unnecessary expense and it's just bad use of resource and stuff. So order what we need, more kind of food on demand rather than food to hold for the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So we work with partners who are in our supply chain who can get us food as and when we need to. I remember we had some cakes and food left over, which would last 2 days, because we always shut on a weekend, so the food was there from a Friday, which would happily and comfortably work till Sunday. We reached out to several charities saying, look, we're more than happy to box them up, and can we come and drop them off for your homeless charity? And they were like, has the food been opened? Like, is it in the sealed container? We're like, oh yeah, it's been on display, but it's all fine, it's good to go. We're not allowed to have it. And they're like, oh, because it's out of packaging. I'm like, so what, I need to bin this? They're like, oh, you're going to have to bin that. I'm like, but it's still, I can sell that product. If I was open on a Saturday, I could physically sell it.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to give it away for free to a charity because of some red tape.
And then would that person that's hungry or wants to treat their children or treat themselves, would they care? You know?
Absolutely not. Why would somebody care if the food is still good to eat, by the way? It's not like it's used by or best before.
That's crazy.
It's because a red tape for a charity stipulates that all food that they get must still be in its original packaging.
And that must be from above. That's not even the charity stating that.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's probably government legislation or food safety standards somewhere that's probably kicking in. And you just got to think it's just bonkers, because I'm allowed to sell it, but I'm not allowed to give to a charity for free for somebody to eat.
But then this is what I mean. If there's some form of technology linking you to the end user, for want of a better word, then surely they could say, oh, there's some cake here. Let's go and get some.
So there is, I've forgotten the name of it top of my head, but there is a company that does it. But even still, what they do is an online platform. We basically go in and tell them what we have available to collect.
Yeah.
But even still, it's like, oh, well, have you got the packaging for it? Have you got the allergens for it? Can you tell us what the fat content is? Can you tell us what the sugar content is? I'm like, it's a cake.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that.
So there'll be allergens that we're aware of, but people will tell you straight away if they've got allergens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think we need to be better at kind of removing red tape to help people. And I think just be brave enough to push past it. But because of the consequences are so severe in terms of fines and regulation breaches, people just won't. Hence why we do see the likes of the fast food chains and supermarkets throwing food into the bins, because it's less of a headache. And that's what it comes down to. It's purely less paperwork to bin something than is to give to somebody.
That's so sad, isn't it?
That's
definitely
where
something wrong there.
It's 100% it's wrong. 100%.
And then usually there's someone waiting at that bin to fish it out, but then
Correct.
everything's okay.
Because they've not physically given it to somebody and they've gone and helped themselves. That's perfectly fine.
But they still
what? It's like you got cross-contaminated waste in there at this point. But
Rats.
that's all right.
Yeah. Whereas if they bypassed the bin and were being civil, there you go. That would be illegal.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Yeah. So what do you do with your food waste now?
We are. I think as a team, we're very good at early ordering in what we need. So our food waste is actually very minimal. So we, as part of our food hygiene at Flok, we have a food waste log, which we keep in case of Middlesbrough Council wants to review it.
Right.
They can see, we keep a full audit log of what we've bought and what wastage we had, and we give detail to why that's gone off. And actually, when we look back at a book, it's only ever like 1 or 2 items that go out. So the team's now really good at actually only ordering in what we need. So we're getting better at using kind of data to forecast traffic. So luckily, being a tech company as well at Alt Labs, we can actually understand the data of people coming in, amount of volume coming in, and our kind of so we can make rough predictions. So even on the EPOS system, we've got trends analysis coming, so we can pick out when we think we're going to be hitting peaks and troughs, and understanding what's selling and what doesn't sell. So we only keep stuff that we know we're selling. So when we first opened up the doors, we actually had a massive range of sandwich fillings, of cakes and drinks and stuff. We've really honed it down to the 5-6 items of cakes that we know sell, and certain sandwich fillings that sell, and we've kept it at that. So our menu is very tight, but it's like only keep what we know that's going to sell, rather than trying to say we can do everything and have a lot of wastage. Yeah.
But it seems that that's like what people need to do now, because if people don't get what they want instantly, they're like, I'm never coming back here, sort of thing, which is, the wrong attitude. I think as humans, again, we need to be, there's none of that. Oh, I understand the reasons why it's minimising waste, it's better for the environment. But some people, they're like, I don't care. I wanted that sandwich.
It's a nature of on-demand living, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where the subscription companies, Amazon, damn them, I've got us all living in this world where you can just order things and it just happens to appear, right?
Yeah.
As amazing as it is, it's actually set a culture of click your fingers and it's here. I want this. I want it now. I want it this way. And if you look at, especially when it comes down to food, you've got Food Hub, you've got Deliveroo, Just Eat, Uber, and, where you can go on there. There'll be hundreds of different options of food. You can get it done, eat it now, and you bin what you don't want and stuff like that. People, I think what we need to do as a society is get back at learning how to cook.
Yeah.
And actually having time to learn and actually how to make your own meal at home.
Yeah.
That's where I really appreciate the stuff like from a technology point of view, the stuff like you've got HelloFresh and stuff like that. I think those companies are doing onto something really well, where they're trying to re-educate people of using fresh produce to grow stuff. So we only use fresh produce at Flok. We try to buy all the organic where we can, and in an ideal situation, the team have a joke with me, because I always think I'd love to get into vertical farming. Is my absolute.
We have a client that does that.
Really,
Yeah.
I'll have to introduce, because it's always my family's background's farming.
Oh,
so
okay,
from in Pakistan, my grandfather, my great grandfather used to grow mangoes and
Amazing.
oranges and stuff like that. So we come from like a farming heritage, and I think it sits in my DNA. So I grow my own little. For the kids at home, we've got carrots and strawberries and stuff, and even coriander for the curries and stuff. We'll make at home. And I always used to say, I always think like in the day moving forward, if we're really looking at like combating CO2, global emissions and stuff, we need to start looking at vertical farming and growing produce locally, and then use that to supply local supply chain rather than trying to fly in avocados, which we all know from a CO2 point of view are very bad. And you can't and say, well, I'm eating CO2, I'm being all healthy. The damage you're doing to grow CO2 is actually quite bad. But if you can vertically farm these and grow them locally and have your local restaurants with local produce, locally grown, with no pesticides being used under a controlled environment, and you can make you can use solar panels, wind farms to use the electricity. You can use rainwater, which we get plenty of in the United Kingdom, to water the plants. I think that's the future of like farming and food, and hopefully you get less wastage from there because you're able to control the growth rates yourself. And
absolutely, it's the future in blockchain as well, linking it all together so everything's accountable, traceable.
100%.
No, that's really exciting. So you have plans for that, do you? Or is it?
Like I said, very early on, we're bootstrapped. So unless one of your listeners wants to fund
you never know. But I can always hook you up with that company as well. Just touching on something you said just a few minutes ago about the kind of social media where they want to share it, well, not share, but share about themselves, share what they've got all the time, and you kind of consider it a little bit selfish. So in terms of kind of what you're working towards and success, do you kind of have any aspirations in terms of what you want, or are you quite reserved in terms of that?
I think you're probably asking what my definition of success would be, right?
A little bit of both, but equally, if you're saying, it's kind of selfish, say it's a nice car, for example, they've bought a nice car and they're showing that off. Like, would you, even if you had the money for it, would you not do that?
I probably would, 100%.
Right. Just wanted to check.
It's. Are you buying it for yourself to enjoy? Are you buying it to showing off, to post social media videos and say, look what I have? That's the two different angle, right? So if you've done really well in life and you've succeeded, well done. It's your money, do what you want with it. But then to buy something just to gloat on it on social media, that's your motives are different. You're not doing it to enjoy it for yourself. You're doing it to kind of build a profile, thinking I'm a high flyer, I do this, I do that. I think on my social media, I don't post anything personal on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think that's the type of person I am. Is like, what I have is mine. I don't need to tell the world about it.
Yeah.
I'd rather use my channels to talk about the stuff about vertical farming, the stuff that's happening in the world of technology, the stuff that we do as Alt Labs or at Flok in the world of innovation or from co-working, and the impacts of that human interactions and human ability has. In fact, our new Alt Labs website, which is due to go live in a couple of weeks, our kind of headline statement on that is we believe the future is humans and not AI.
Okay, interesting.
That's our approach to it as a business
we agree,
angle.
We agree, but we're from like public relations, where it's all about relationships, so we're bound to say that. But it's interesting for a tech company to say it.
Yeah, and so for me, it's about if you're really successful, well done, have it, you've earned it, enjoy it. If you're buying it just because you can do a TikTok video on it and you can show you're driving a fancy car doing donuts to your mates on social media, your narrative was different to start off with.
But is that a bad thing?
It depends how you want to perceive the world, right?
I mean, it's not anything I would do, but
and it's not something I would do, but people
doesn't
will
mean
do
it's wrong. Yeah,
it doesn't mean it's wrong. Yeah. It's just I would see that as gloating.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But equally, as sometimes when we're a bit too British and we're like, oh, we better not do that. It's not kind of good manners.
That's a very good point, actually, because family holidays for the last 4, I think we've been to the UAE, to Dubai, and you get to see the other world where everything is flash, right? You see all the fancy cars, you see people living it large, so to speak. but it's the norm, kind
Yes.
of.
Yeah.
So it's acceptable.
It'd be weird not to.
And over there, it's like if you're able to show success, you're going to do more business.
Yes.
Where in the UK, I think that stiff upper lip, that British culture, that keep it humble type of attitude does kick in. Yeah, I see that point as well. Yeah.
Oh, it is interesting. Okay, coming towards the end of some of the questions. What's your personal purpose in life? So not your business purpose. What's your personal purpose?
Good question.
Something I'm battling with at the minute. I'm trying to figure mine out.
I think I had this chat with somebody the other day and they said, what's it that you enjoy doing? I said, just solving problems. I don't know whether it's a purpose in life to just consistently solve problems, but I think when we're working with clients, we kind of pick and choose sometimes the projects that we work on. And it's like, the team hate me for it. It's like, the more complicated it is, the more I enjoy it.
I bet they
They're like, there's more that can go wrong on this. And I was like, exactly that. It's more challenging. So I think my purpose in life is just trying to evolve human beings with technology and using technology to do the right things.
Even in your personal life, it's just so ingrained in you.
Yeah, I think because the business is my passion as well. So I'm fortunate enough to have a company that it's not just a business; it's a hobby, it's an interest. It's I read a lot about technology and how it's working.
Yeah.
I'm already looking forward to what Apple Pro Vision goggles headsets are going to do, and actually how that's going to be the next step in technology shift. How that might actually come the next iPhone, and how we interact with stuff and computing and stuff like that. I think I'm so passionate about that. I think it's a natural part of me.
Yes.
So and it also happens to be the business world that I'm in.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about trying to help other people to try to succeed, especially as being as a business, we've grown by running corporate accelerator programs. So we get to work with startups and big corporates to try and marry them and help solve big corporate challenges. But at the ground foundation level, it's a very much a personal thing of me actually helping somebody else start a business and actually giving them some guidance and actually try doing this, try doing that, don't do this, try doing that. Try pivot in this technology. What about this? What about that? And I think I just love that bit of challenge of trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's the purpose of trying to do my part to help society move in the right way, in the right direction. So hopefully that's probably down to vertical farming or even down to bare roots as just being a role model for my 3 kids. So when they grow up, they've got, I'm laying down a foundation. So when my daughter was born, of my life is kind of changed a bit. One is, I think as a father, I've got a much different relationship with my daughter. She's like my mini me, and I've begun to see the world through her eyes. It's hard to see it through my son's eyes because being a male, I see it in their way.
Yes,
but to see it from my daughter's eyes was a bit different. In a couple of fronts. One is our Flok. I looked at what does the future of workspace look like if it was my daughter going into work. So the Flok co-working space, Yacht Labs HQ office, it's been very much designed around making it comfortable for anybody to be in. So there's no masculine colours. We've put plenty of greenery in, and I think we're one of the only handful, if not the only business, probably in Teesside. I could be wrong, but it offers free sanitary products as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. So
the toilet roll is who gives a crap.
I noticed that as well.
Which is all sustainable. So I'm trying to look at what does the future of workspace for women look like, and actually, as a father, what am I doing about making that change, right? So I'm seeing my life through her, and she's currently just been triaged with autism as well. So I'm learning that world and how to kind of not steer her as much, but actually learn how to mentor her through life with autism, and actually what does that world for her growing up going to look like as well. So it's just trying to do, I feel like I'm in a position of responsibility as being a tech leader to actually where we can build, just don't build tech for the sake of building tech. It's actually build it if there's good use cases for it, which I think we're too cluttered with technology in this day and age. very little of it, I reckon, is used for any value. But even down to more personal levels, like, can we create workspaces that works for everybody, regardless of background?
I love that. I love that how it's having your daughter seeing things through her eyes that have impacted simple things like sanitary products in the toilet. Yeah,
because as a male, you don't think about it.
No,
it's not a conscious thing that even sits. But I think as a woman, I think those are decision-making things. And what we realise is if we look at the data, we actually have more females come through our doors than males at Flok, which is a really, really great thing for us because it validates what we want to achieve was to make it. One of the big part of our initial assessments was women were saying like we don't feel like there's a safe place to go and work. It's all very corporate-y, very much white collar, male dominant heavy environment. We've kind of changed that narrative by saying actually you can have a relaxed environment to go where you've got sustainable products. You've got we use Organic Monday for our sanitary products. So again, plastic free, all organically made.
Perfect.
So there is more of just a case of just rather than providing sanitary products, it's like we provide the right ones and we don't pass that cost on. That's absorbed by the business. It's just us making sure as a future business we're doing the right things.
I love that, and we'll end on that and move into our regular questions. I don't know if you've seen this feature as part of some other podcasts, but on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being worst, 10 being best, you rate yourself at 10 very personal things. Okay?
Okay.
How good looking are you?
Oh, wow. My mum would say, so 10 being bad.
10 being the best.
My mother would say 9. My wife would probably say 2.
But what would
Which
you say?
is more of a joke on her. I'd probably say 6.
Okay. How funny are you?
I think a 7.
Okay. Cooking skills?
Oh, 3.
You talked about how important it was, but just a 3. I'm worse than that. Singing?
Oh, it's like 0, 1, 1.
Tolerance to alcohol? Do you drink?
Don't drink at all.
No, good for you. Parenting?
Interesting. Depends on which one of the kids you ask.
What day of the week it is for me.
Yeah, the 10-year-old would say I'm terrible because he's at that age now where he's too cool for school. I would like to think I'm a solid 8 or 9.
Okay.
I've mastered everything, but I think that my kids know I'm always there for them, and I think that's all you can ask for as a parent. Like they know you're there to lean on.
Oh, lovely. How good a friend are you?
9.
That's high. What are your intelligence levels like?
Overall or based on...
Well, that's it. It's a mix, isn't it?
Right.
So you can separate out the various elements.
7.
7. Kindness.
6.
Okay. And the final one is how good at sex are you?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's that type of podcast. And did you say your wife's out there? Can I
My
go
wife's out there. You can probably
Maybe
ask
I should
her.
just get her in for this bit.
Probably she'll say 0, but let's go 6.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Ryan from Harvey and Hugo, and I am the videographer here. So, are you looking for a new way to stand out in today's crowded digital landscape? Well, look no further than podcasting. Here at Harvey and Hugo, we specialise in creating and producing high quality podcasts that engage and inspire audiences. And with our comprehensive production services, we'll take care of all the technical details, from the recording and the editing to the distribution and the promotion. With millions of listeners tuning in every day, it's the perfect time to start connecting with them on a deeper level. Let Harvey and Hugo help you unlock the power of podcasting and take your message to the next level.